The stars had never seemed so quiet to Council Leader Zethkar, as he floated in the observation chamber of Harmony's Rest. His crystalline body caught the light from 14 different suns, each one representing a world under the Galactic Council's protection. For 3,000 years, peace had ruled this part of the galaxy. No wars, no conflicts, no death from violence. It was everything their ancestors had dreamed of when they first formed the council. Zethkar's thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime. Observer Maltith, one of the insectoid churn, entered the chamber with quick, nervous movements. Her forearms carried data tablets that glowed with new information. "Council Leader, we have detected something unusual," Maltith said, her voice buzzing with excitement. "Our deep space sensors have found a new species. They appear to have just achieved faster-than-light travel." Zethkar turned his attention. To the data, the planet was small and blue, orbiting a yellow star in what the Council called the Outer Rim. The initial scans showed oceans, continents, and what appeared to be a thriving civilization. The beings living there had recently launched their first ships beyond their home system. "How wonderful," Zethkar said, his crystalline form brightening with joy. "A new species to welcome into our peaceful family. What do we know about them?" Maltith's antennae twitched as she read from her tablets. "They call themselves humans. They appear to be bipedal, carbon-based life forms. Their planet seems to be a garden world, much like most of our member worlds. They have achieved basic space travel and appear to be exploring their local star system." Zethkar felt the warm glow of satisfaction that came with discovering new life. In his long existence, he had been present for the welcoming of 3 different species into the Council. Each time had been a celebration of life, peace, and the expansion of their perfect society. "Prepare the standard invitation," he said. "Let them know they are welcome to join us." Meanwhile, millions of light years away, Captain Jake Morrison was having the worst day of his career. The mining operation near Jupiter had hit unexpected problems when their main drill broke down. The New Horizon was humanity's most advanced mining ship, but it was still new technology, and things went wrong more often than Jake liked. Jake had been a Marine for 15 years before joining the space program. He knew how to handle problems, but space mining was different from anything he had done before. Out here, a mistake could kill everyone on the ship in seconds. There was no room for error, no backup, and no rescue if things went really wrong. "Captain, we're getting something strange on the long-range sensors," called out Lieutenant Amy Foster from the communications station. "It's not like anything we've seen before." Jake pushed himself over to Amy's station. In zero gravity, movement was still something humans were getting used to, but Jake had adapted quickly. His military training had taught him to adjust to any environment. "What kind of strange?" he asked. Amy's fingers moved across her control panel, bringing up the sensor data on the main screen. "It's a transmission, sir, but it's not coming from Earth or any of our colonies. It's coming from deep space, and it's directed at us." Jake felt his heart rate increase. This was the moment every human had wondered about since they first looked up at the stars. First contact with alien life. The question was whether it would be friendly or hostile. "Can you translate it?" "Working on it now, sir." The computer's trying to match patterns with known languages, but this is completely different from anything human. Amy paused, then looked up with wide eyes. "Sir, I think it's working. The translation is coming through." The main screen filled with text, translated from whatever alien language had been used. Jake read it twice, hardly believing what he was seeing. "Greetings to the new species of the 3rd planet of the star you call Sol. We are the Galactic Council, representing 6 peaceful species who have lived in harmony for 3,000 years. We have observed your recent achievements in space travel and wish to welcome you to join our community of peace and prosperity among the stars, if you wish. To learn more, please respond to this transmission. We await your reply with joy and anticipation." Jake stared at the message for a long moment. Peaceful aliens who wanted to be friends. It seemed too good to be true, but there it was, right in front of him. Amy recorder response. Standard first contact protocol. "Yes, sir." Jake thought carefully. about his words. This message would go down in history as humanity's first communication with alien life. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel New Horizon. We have received your message and are honored by your invitation. We will forward your communication to our leaders on Earth for their consideration. Thank you for your peaceful intentions and look forward to learning more about your counsel. The message was sent, and Jake immediately ordered a course back to Earth. This was bigger than any mining operation. This was the moment that would change everything for humanity. On Earth, President Lisa Carter was in the middle of a budget meeting when her emergency communicator went off. Only a few things could trigger that device, and none of them were good. She excused herself and took the call in her private office. Madam President, this is Admiral Rick Hayes from Global Space Command. We have a situation that requires your immediate attention. Captain Morrison is on his way back from Jupiter with something you need to see. 20 minutes later, Lisa sat in the secure briefing room beneath the White House, watching the alien message play on the main screen. Round the table sat the most important people in the human government: Admiral Hayes, Dr. Amanda Ross from the Xenobiology Institute, Secretary of Defense Paul Chen, and Director of Intelligence Maria Santos. So this is really happening, Lisa said quietly. We're not alone. Dr. Ross leaned forward, her eyes bright with excitement. Madam President, this is the greatest discovery in human history. Not only are we not alone, but we've been contacted by what appears to be a peaceful alliance of multiple species. Admiral Hayes was less enthusiastic. With respect, Dr. Ross, we need to be careful here. We don't know anything about these aliens except what they've told us. We need to approach this with extreme caution. What do you recommend, Admiral? Lisa asked. We send a diplomatic mission, but we go unprepared. Use our best ship, our best people, and we make sure we can defend ourselves if this turns out to be a trap. Dr. Ross shook her head. Admiral, they're offering us membership in a peaceful council. This isn't about warfare. Dr. Ross, I've been a soldier for 30 years. I've learned that the people who talk most about peace are sometimes the ones you need to watch most carefully. Lisa listened to the debate, weighing the options. Finally, she made her decision. We'll do both. We'll send a diplomatic mission aboard our most advanced ship. Ambassador Kate Sullivan will lead the diplomatic team, and Captain Morrison will command the ship. We'll go in peace, but we'll be ready for anything. Within a week, the Terran Dawn was being prepared for humanity's first diplomatic mission to the stars. The ship was humanity's crowning achievement in space technology, armed with the best weapons and shields human science could produce. It was designed to explore, to fight, to survive in the hostile environment of space. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge, watching Earth grow smaller in the view screen. Beside him, Ambassador Sullivan reviewed her briefing materials one more time. Neither of them knew that they were about to represent a species that the peaceful Galactic Council would consider the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. The Terran Dawn jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying humanity toward a meeting that would change the fate of both species forever. Behind them, Earth continued its orbit around the sun, unaware that its children were about to learn they were not the peaceful gardeners they appeared to be, but something far more dangerous. They were Deathworlders, and they were coming home. The Terran Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, and Captain Jake Morrison had never seen anything like what appeared on his view screen. Harmony's Rest was massive, a space station that looked more like a small moon than anything humans had ever built. It orbited a gas giant that swirled with colors Jake had never imagined possible. "My God," whispered Dr. Ben Parker, the mission's linguist, as he stared at the station. "It's beautiful." Ambassador Kate Sullivan stood beside Morrison on the bridge, her diplomatic training keeping her expression calm even though her heart was racing. This was it. The moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Everything they said and did from this point forward would matter. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the station, reported Lieutenant Amy Foster, who had volunteered to join the mission after her work translating the first alien message. "Put it on screen," Morrison ordered. The image that appeared made several crew members gasp. The council leader Zethkar looked like he was made of living crystal, his body catching and reflecting light in ways that seemed almost magical. When he spoke, His voice was translated into perfect English by the ship's computers. "Welcome, humans of Earth. I am Zethkar, leader of the Galactic Council. We are honored by your presence and eager to show you the wonders of our peaceful civilization. Please, dock at Bay 7. We have prepared quarters for your delegation and arranged meetings with representatives of all 6 Council species." "Thank you, Council Leader," Ambassador Sullivan replied. "We are honored by your invitation and look forward to learning about your society." As the Terran Dawn moved toward the docking bay, Morrison noticed something that made his military instincts alert. The station had almost no defenses. A few small ships that looked more like police patrol boats than military vessels, and energy barriers that seemed designed to keep debris out rather than enemies. "Captain," said Commander Lisa Torres, the mission's military attaché, speaking quietly so only Morrison could hear. "This place is completely undefended. Those ships wouldn't last 5 minutes against a single destroyer." Morrison nodded slightly. He had noticed the same thing. Either these aliens were incredibly confident, or they had never faced a real threat. The docking process was smooth, and soon the human delegation was walking through corridors that seemed to be made of some kind of living metal. The walls pulsed gently with soft light. The air smelled like flowers and rain. Council Leader Zethkar met them at the airlock, along with 5 other beings that were so alien that Dr. Amanda Ross, the team's xenobiologist, had tears in her eyes just looking at them. There was Veltar, a Sylvan, whose bark-like skin was covered in patterns that shifted like leaves in the wind. Floating beside him was Whisper, a Vortani who looked like a cloud of glowing gas held together by some invisible force. The depth's representative Flo moved in a tank of water that somehow maintained its shape without any visible container. Next to them stood Click, a Churin whose insect-like appearance was made less frightening by the obvious intelligence in her multiple eyes. Finally, there was Bright, a Lumian who appeared to be made of pure light. "Welcome to Harmony's Rest," Zethkar said, his crystal body chiming softly as he moved. "We have prepared the Great Assembly Hall for our first formal meeting. But first, please, let us show you to your quarters so you may rest after your journey." The quarters were more luxurious than anything on Earth, with rooms that seemed to reshape themselves based on the occupants' needs. The human delegation was given an entire section of the station, with meeting rooms, recreational areas, and even a small garden that somehow maintained Earth-normal gravity and atmosphere. That evening, the formal welcome ceremony began. The Great Assembly Hall was enormous, filled with representatives from all 6 council species. The humans were seated at a place of honor, and the ceremony began with what Zethkar called the sharing of stories. Each species told the story of their first contact with the council, how they had been welcomed into the peaceful alliance, and how their lives had been improved by joining the galactic community. The stories were beautiful, filled with cooperation, understanding, and mutual respect. When it was humanity's turn, Ambassador Sullivan stood and began to tell the story of Earth. She spoke of humanity's journey from primitive hunters to spacefaring, civilization of the great discoveries and achievements that had brought them to this moment. "Our species has always been curious," she said. "We have always wanted to explore, to learn, to grow. We have faced many challenges on our world, but we have overcome them through cooperation and determination." The alien representatives listened politely, but Dr. Ben Parker, who had been studying their reactions, noticed something troubling. When Sullivan mentioned challenges, several of the aliens looked confused. When she spoke of overcoming difficulties, they seemed uncomfortable. After the ceremony, the human delegation was invited to participate in smaller cultural exchange sessions. This was where the real problems began. Dr. Sam Mitchell, the team's cultural analyst, was meeting with a group of Sylvan researchers when the subject of human history came up. The Sylvans were fascinated by human culture and asked many questions about Earth's past. "Your species has existed for how long?" asked one of the Sylvans, whose name translated as Gentle Branch. "Modern humans have been around for about 300,000 years, Mitchell replied. "But our civilization, as you might define it, is only about 10,000 years old. And in that time, you have achieved space travel and faster-than-light communication. Remarkable. Your species must have lived in perfect harmony to achieve so much so quickly. Mitchell paused, unsure how to respond. Well, not exactly perfect harmony. We've had our share of conflicts over the years. Conflicts? The Sylvan's bark-like skin turned a darker shade of brown. You mean disagreements? Sometimes more than disagreements? We've fought wars, had revolutions, competed for resources, but we've learned from our mistakes and worked to build a better future. The silence that followed was uncomfortable. Hushes. The Sylvans looked at each other with expressions that Mitchell couldn't read, but he could tell they were disturbed by what he had said. Meanwhile, Commander Torres was having her own difficulties. She had been asked to explain human military organization to a group of council security officers who called themselves peacekeepers. The more she talked, the more disturbed they became. "So you have warriors whose only job is to fight?" asked Captain Humptle, a Zephyrian whose crystal body had turned a dull gray color. "We have soldiers whose job is to protect our people and our interests," Torres explained. "They train for combat, but they also do many other things. Disaster, relief, humanitarian aid, peacekeeping operations. But they are trained to kill." Torres hesitated. "They are trained to defend themselves and others. Sometimes that means using deadly force, but only when absolutely necessary." The peacekeepers exchanged glances that Torres didn't like. She was beginning to realize that these beings had never encountered a species that maintained standing. Armies. The breaking point came during a dinner with the full council leadership. Ambassador Sullivan was trying to explain human resilience and adaptability when council leader Zethkar asked a simple question. "Your world must be very peaceful to have produced such a cooperative species." "In your evolution," Sullivan thought carefully about her answer. "Earth is a dynamic world. We've had to adapt to changing climates, natural disasters, and competition with other species for resources." "Other species?" Veltar, the Sylvan representative, leaned forward. "You mean other intelligent species?" "No, I mean other animals. Predators, mostly. Bears, wolves, big cats. We learned to hunt and defend ourselves." The reaction was immediate and shocking. Several of the alien representatives made sounds of distress, whispered the Vortani, actually flickered and dimmed, clicked the churn, backed away from the table. "You lived with creatures that hunted you?" Zethkar's voice was barely a whisper. "Well, we learned to hunt them back," Sullivan said, not understanding. The horrified look she was receiving. "We became the top predators on our world." That was when Bright, the Lumian, spoke for the first time since the humans had arrived. "You are killers." The word hung in the air like a poison cloud. Sullivan tried to explain, but the damage was done. The council representatives were looking at the humans with expressions of fear and disgust. "We are not killers," Sullivan said. "Firmly, we are survivors. We learned to defend ourselves, and we learned to work together. That's why we've been able to achieve so much." But the aliens were no longer listening. They were staring at the humans like they were dangerous wild animals that had somehow learned to speak. That night, emergency sessions were called throughout the station. The council had never encountered anything like humanity before. They had discovered something that would shake their peaceful civilization to its core. The humans were Deathworlders, and they had no idea what that meant. Dr. Quintal had not slept in 3 days. The Vortani scientist floated in her private laboratory, surrounded by screens showing data about the human homeworld. What she was seeing went against everything she thought she knew about how life developed in the universe. The emergency council session had been called. Immediately after the disastrous dinner with the human delegation, every species representative was present, their forms showing clear signs of distress. The Sylvans had turned dark brown. The Zephyrians had lost their usual bright glow. The churn were making nervous clicking sounds. "We need to understand what we are dealing with," Council Leader Zethkar had said, his crystal body cracked with stress lines. "Dr. Quintal, you are our best xenobiologist. I want you to study this Earth and tell us exactly what kind of beings we have invited into our peaceful community." Now, 3 days later, Quintal wished she had never accepted the assignment. Data from Earth was like looking into a nightmare. She activated the main holographic display and began her presentation to the emergency council session. The first image showed Earth from space, a beautiful blue and green world that looked peaceful and inviting. At first glance, the human homeworld appears to be a standard Class 3 garden world. She began, her gaseous form flickering with nervous energy. However, closer examination reveals something far more disturbing. The image changed to show Earth's gravity measurements. Several council members made sounds of shock. Earth's gravity is 2.7 times stronger than the galactic average. Most of our worlds have gravity between 0.3 and 0.8 standard units. The humans have evolved in an environment that would crush most of our people. The next image showed Earth's weather patterns. Storms looked like weapons of mass destruction to the peaceful aliens. Their weather includes hurricanes with winds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour, tornadoes that can destroy entire cities, and electrical storms that discharge millions of volts of energy. Their planet experiences regular earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and temperature variations that range from -40 degrees to +50 degrees Celsius. Veltar, the Sylvan representative, was shaking so badly that his leaves were falling off. How can anything survive in such conditions? That is exactly the problem, Quintel replied. Everything on Earth has evolved to not just survive, but to thrive in these conditions. Let me show you the local wildlife. The holographic display filled with images of Earth's animals: lions, tigers, bears, sharks, crocodiles, venomous snakes, and countless other predators. The council members recoiled in horror. Their oceans contain creatures longer than our largest ships, Quintal continued. Blue whales reaching 30 meters in length, giant squids with tentacles that can crush steel, and sharks that have remained unchanged for millions of years because they are already perfect killing machines. Click, the Churn representative was backing away from the display. These are all real? These creatures actually exist? They do? And the humans lived alongside them. More than that, they learned to hunt them. They became the dominant predator. On a world full of apex predators, the next series of images showed human history. Cave paintings of humans hunting mammoths, ancient battles, medieval knights, and modern soldiers. Each image was more disturbing to the peaceful aliens than the last. For their entire evolutionary history, humans have been in constant conflict. Not just with other species, but with each other. They have fought wars continuously for thousands of years. They have developed weapons that can destroy entire cities, and they have used them. Bright, the Lumian representative, pulsed with distress. Light. How are they not extinct? Because they are built for survival, Quintel said, bringing up detailed scans of human anatomy. Look at their physical structure. Dense bones that are actually stronger when they heal from breaks. Muscle fibers that are 3 times denser than the galactic average. A cardiovascular system designed for extreme physical stress. They have redundant organs, enhanced healing abilities, and a nervous system that makes them faster and stronger when they are in danger. The anatomical data was overwhelming. The council members were seeing creatures that seemed designed by evolution specifically for warfare and survival. Their brains produce chemicals that we would consider dangerous drugs, Quintel continued. Adrenaline that increases their strength and speed. Endorphins that allow them to ignore pain. Dopamine that makes them feel good when they overcome challenges or defeat enemies. Chemicals that make them enjoy fighting. Zethkar's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, they are literally addicted to conflict and competition, but there is more. Display showed human tools and weapons throughout history. From stone axes to nuclear weapons, the progression was clear. They are two losers on a level we have never seen. Every advancement in their technology has been driven by their need to survive and dominate their environment. They have turned their entire planet into a weapon. The final set of data showed human space technology. The Terran Dawn was analyzed in detail, and the results were terrifying to the peaceful aliens. Their ship, which they call a diplomatic vessel, carries enough firepower to destroy our entire defense fleet. Their weapons are designed to penetrate shields, destroy armor, and eliminate targets at ranges we cannot even detect. They have turned space travel into warfare. The council chamber was silent, except for the soft sounds of distressed aliens. Finally whispered, the Vortani representative spoke. Are you saying that these humans are some kind of military species? I am saying that they are something we have never encountered before. They are what the old texts call Deathworlders, a species that evolved on a world so dangerous that only the strongest, smartest, and most aggressive could survive. The old texts? Zethkar asked. Ancient warnings left by the First Council? Builders. They spoke of worlds where life was so harsh that any species that evolved there would be capable of destroying entire civilizations. We thought they were myths. The implications were sinking in. The Council had invited a species of warriors into their peaceful society. Beings who had evolved specifically for violence and conflict. There is more, Quintal said quietly. Have been monitoring their communications while they are here. They are not just warriors. They are intelligent warriors. They have been studying us, learning our weaknesses, analyzing our defenses. She played a recording of a conversation between Captain Morrison and Commander Torres, taken from the humans' private quarters. This place is completely undefended, Torres' voice said. Their technology is advanced, but it's all peaceful. They have no weapons, no shields, no military capabilities at all. Keep that observation to yourself, Morrison replied. We're here as diplomats, not conquerors. But yes, I've noticed the same thing. If someone wanted to take over this place, it would be easy. The recording ended, and the council members looked at each other with growing fear. They are planning to conquer. Us, Click said, her multiple eyes wide with terror. We do not know that, Zethkar said, but his voice lacked conviction. They may simply be observing, as any intelligent species would. Or they are doing exactly what Deathworlders do, Quintel replied. They are learning how to destroy us. Meanwhile, aboard the Terran Dawn, the human delegation was having their own concerns. Dr. Ben. Parker had been working with the station's translation systems and had made a disturbing discovery. Ambassador, he said, entering Kate Sullivan's quarters with a worried expression. I've been analyzing the Galactic Common Language, and I've found something troubling. What is it? Sullivan asked, looking up from her diplomatic notes. They don't have words for concepts that are basic to human civilization. No word for war, no word for murder, no word for competition. They have no concept of survival of the fittest, no understanding of resource scarcity, no knowledge of evolutionary pressure. Sullivan frowned. That's impossible. How can an intelligent species not understand these concepts? Because they never experienced them. Their worlds were peaceful. They evolved in harmony, not conflict. They have never faced the kind of challenges that shaped humanity. What does that mean for us? It means they have no idea what we are. And when they figure it out, they are going to be terrified. Parker was right. In the council chambers, the emergency session was reaching a conclusion. The vote was unanimous. The humans were a threat to galactic peace that could not be allowed to continue. We must politely decline their membership, Zethkar announced. We'll give them some gifts, thank them for their visit, and hope they return to their distant world and never come back. But even as he spoke, Zethkar knew it was too late. The Deathworlders had found them. Once a predator found prey, it never stopped hunting. The peaceful age of the Galactic Council was about to end. The Council's decision was made in secret. They would test the humans to see how they truly behaved when faced with danger. It was a standard procedure they had used with all new species, but never before had the stakes felt so high. We need to know what they really are, Council Leader Zethkar explained to the small group of council members who would oversee the test. Are they the peaceful explorers they claim to be, or are they the dangerous warriors our research suggests? The test was always the same. A controlled emergency would be created in the section of the station where the new species was staying. Systems would malfunction, life support would become unstable, and emergency barriers would activate. It was designed to be challenging, but not actually dangerous. Previous species had responded by working together, asking for help, or waiting. Calmly for rescue, Dr. Quintel floated nervously beside the observation screens. Are we certain this is wise? If they are truly Deathworlders, we may be provoking them. You must know, Zethkar replied. If they are dangerous, we need to understand. How dangerous? If they are peaceful, this test will prove it. Observer Maltith was monitoring the human section of the station. The delegation was in their quarters, going about their normal activities. Ambassador Sullivan was reviewing diplomatic protocols. Captain Morrison was studying star charts. Commander Torres was exercising in the small gym they had been provided. Dr. Parker was working on language translation. Dr. Mitchell was writing cultural analysis reports. They appear calm and relaxed, Maltith reported. No signs of suspicion or preparation for conflict. Begin the test, Zethkar ordered. The first malfunction was subtle. The lights in the human section flickered and dimmed to emergency levels. The artificial gravity fluctuated slightly. It was meant to signal the beginning of a minor crisis. The human response was immediate, completely unexpected. Commander Torres stopped her exercise instantly and moved to the communication panel. Captain Morrison to all team members. We have a potential system malfunction. Report to your emergency stations immediately. Within 30 seconds, every human was moving with purpose and efficiency. They had emergency stations. They had protocols. They were treating this like a military operation. It's fascinating, whispered Dr. Quintal. They have prepared for emergencies we did not tell them were possible. The next phase of the test activated. Emergency barriers slammed down, sealing the human section off from the rest of the station. Life support systems began to fluctuate, causing the air to become thin and the temperature to drop. This was the point where previous species had usually panicked and called for help. The humans did something else entirely. Torres, what's our status? Captain Morrison's voice was calm and professional. Emergency barriers are active. Life support is failing. We have maybe 20 minutes of air at current consumption rates. Torres was checking readings on a device that council members didn't recognize. But we can extend that if we stay calm and work efficiently. Parker, can you access the station's emergency systems through the translation interface? Working on it now, Captain. These systems are more complex than anything we've seen, but I think I can find a way in. Ambassador Sullivan was organizing the civilian members of the team. Mitchell Ross, I need you to gather all our portable equipment. We need to evacuate to the ship. We'll want our research data with us. Dr. Quintal was staring at the monitors. In disbelief, they are not panicking. They're not calling for help. They are solving the problem themselves. The third phase of the test began. The artificial gravity failed completely, putting the entire human section into zero gravity. This was usually the point where species became completely helpless, unable to move or function without gravity to orient themselves. The humans adapted instantly. Commander Torres actually smiled as she pushed off from a wall and glided smoothly to a control panel. Zero-G operations. People, just like training. Captain Morrison was moving through the corridors like he had been born in space, using handholds and surface features to navigate with impossible skill. Parker, how's that system access coming? Almost there, Captain. These emergency barriers have manual overrides, but they're behind some kind of energy shield. Can we get through it? Maybe. Ross, I need you to look at this. You know more about alien technology than I do. Dr. Ross pushed herself over to Parker's position with smooth, practiced movements. She studied the barrier for less than a minute, then pulled out a small device from her equipment kit. This is a sonic disruptor, she explained to Parker. We brought it to study crystal formations, but it might work on their energy fields. She activated the device, and the energy shield around the manual override flickered and died. In the observation room, several council members were backing away from the monitors. They just disabled our emergency systems, Maltith said, her voice high with panic. How did they know how to do that? They did not know, Zethkar replied grimly. They learned. In minutes, they learned how to defeat technology they had never seen before. The humans were not finished. With the emergency barriers disabled, they began moving through the station sections that should have been impossible to reach. Commander Torres led the way, using her military training to navigate the complex passages. Captain, I'm reading the main power distribution center about 50 meters from here, she called back to Morrison. If we can reach it, we might be able to restore full life support to our section. Do it, Morrison replied. But be careful. We don't know what other systems might be affected. Torres moved through the station like a predator hunting prey. She found access panels that the station designers had assumed no one would ever need to use. She bypassed security systems that were meant to keep unauthorized personnel out of critical areas. She reached the power center and began working on systems that she had never seen before, but somehow understood. These conduits are overloaded, she reported. I can reroute power, but I'll need to physically realign some of these connections. Is it safe? Morrison asked. Probably not, but it's safer than suffocating. Torres began working with her bare hands on systems that carried enough power to kill her instantly. She moved with confidence and skill, treating the deadly energy conduits like tools in a workshop. She is enjoying this. Observer Maltith whispered in horror. Look at her expression. She is actually enjoying the danger. It was true, Commander. Torres had a slight smile on her face as she worked. The more dangerous the task became, the more focused and energized she appeared. Within minutes, power was restored to the human section. Life support came back online. The artificial gravity returned to normal. The humans had not just survived the test, they had solved it completely. But they were not finished. Captain Morrison was already on the communication system. He was contacting the Terran Dawn Morrison to ship. We've had some system malfunctions. Here, bring the ship to emergency readiness and prepare for possible evacuation. Understood, Captain, came the reply. We're also reading some instabilities in the station's main power grid. Do you need assistance? Morrison looked around at his team, all of whom were checking their equipment and preparing for whatever might come next. Stand by. You may have some repairs to offer our hosts. In the observation room, the council members were staring at the monitors in stunned silence.
The test was over, but
the humans were still working. They were actually trying to help fix the problems they thought were real emergencies. They solved our test in under an hour, Zethkar said quietly. They disabled our security, bypassed our safety systems, and restored power to their section. Then they offered to help us. They are warriors, Dr. Quintel said, but they are not conquerors. They could have used this situation to take control of the station. Instead, they are trying to help. Or they are planning something more subtle, Whisper suggested, flickering with nervous energy. Perhaps they want us to trust them before they strike. Zethkar studied the monitors, watching Captain Morrison organize his team to help repair the station's systems. The humans were working with a skill and efficiency that was both impressive and terrifying. No, he said finally. I think we have been looking at this wrong. They are not here to conquer us. They are here for something else entirely. What? They want to belong? For the first time in their species' history, they have found others who dream of peace among the stars. They do not want to destroy us. They want to join us. The question was whether the Galactic Council could accept warriors into their peaceful paradise, or whether the very presence of Deathworlders would destroy everything they had built. The answer would change the galaxy forever. The emergency council session had been going for 3 straight days. Representatives from all 6 species filled the great chamber, their voices raised in heated debate. The question before them was simple but terrifying. What should they do? About the humans. We should send them away immediately, declared Whisper, the Vortani representative, her gaseous form flickering with agitation. They are too dangerous to remain here. Every moment they stay increases the risk to our peaceful civilization. But where would they go? Asked Veltar, the Sylvan, whose bark-like skin had turned a worried shade of gray. We cannot simply abandon them in space. That would make us no better than the violent species we fear they might be. Council leader Zethkar listened to the arguments. With growing frustration, for 3 days, they had debated the same points over and over. Some wanted to reject humanity's membership application and send them home with polite excuses. Others suggested offering them a remote system far from council space where they could develop on their own. The most fearful representatives wanted to declare humans a threat to galactic peace and ban them from council territory entirely. But Zethkar had been studying the humans more carefully than anyone else. He had watched their behavior during The test analyzed their responses to crisis and reviewed every interaction they had with council members. What he had found was not what he expected. "Council members," he said, his crystal voice cutting through the debate. "I believe we have been asking the wrong question." The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to their leader. "We have been asking whether humans are dangerous. The answer is clearly yes. They are perhaps the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. But the real question is not whether they are dangerous. The question is what they choose to do." With that danger, Dr. Quintal floated forward. "Council leader, the evidence is clear. They are evolved killers from a death world. How can we trust such beings?" "Because," Zethkar replied, "they chose to save us instead of conquering us." He activated the chamber's main display, showing footage from the recent test. The humans working together, solving problems, offering help even when they thought they were in danger themselves. Look at their actions, not their capabilities. When faced with crisis, they did not panic. When given the opportunity to take control of our station, they chose to fix it instead. When offered the chance to demonstrate their superiority, they chose to help. "That could be deception," Click, the Churn representative, said nervously. "They might be planning a longer strategy." "I have studied their history," Zethkar continued. "Yes, they have fought wars. Yes, they have killed. But do you know what else they have done? They have protected the weak. They have sacrificed themselves for others. They have chosen peace, even when war would have been easier." The display changed to show human history. Images of humans helping each other during disasters, of soldiers protecting civilians, of people risking their lives to save strangers. Every other species in our council became peaceful because they had no choice. We lack the capacity for effective violence. But humans became peaceful by choice. They have the power to destroy, and they choose not to use it. Bright, the Lumian representative, pulsed with thoughtful light. "What are you suggesting, Council?" "Leader, I am suggesting that we have found something we never knew we needed. For 3,000 years, we have lived in peace because nothing dangerous has ever found us. But the galaxy is vast, and we have been fortunate. That fortune will not last forever." Zethkar's words sent a chill through the chamber. The Council had always assumed their peace was permanent, that their remote location and advanced technology would protect them from any threats. "There are things in the darkness between stars," Zethkar continued. "The old texts speak of them, species that conquered entire galaxies before moving on to new hunting grounds. We have survived because we were hidden, not because we were strong." "You think the humans could protect us?" Velter asked. "I think the humans are the only species we have ever met that could protect us. More than that, I think they want to protect us." Meanwhile, in the human quarters, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Ambassador Kate Sullivan had called together the entire delegation to discuss their growing concerns about the Council's behavior. "They're afraid of us," Commander Torres said bluntly. "I can see it in the way they look at us, the way they position their security forces. They think we're here to conquer them. Can you blame them?" Dr. Ben Parker asked. "We come from a world that would be a nightmare to them. Every story we tell about human achievement involves overcoming violence or competition. To them, we must seem like monsters." Captain Morrison stood at the window, looking out at the peaceful station around them. Ships moved in gentle patterns, their crews going about their daily lives without fear or concern for defense. It was beautiful, but it was also vulnerable. "The question is," he said, "what do we do about it? Came here hoping to join a galactic community, but they don't want neighbors like us." "Maybe they don't know what they want," Dr. Amanda Ross suggested. "They've never faced a real threat before. They don't understand that sometimes peace requires strength to maintain it." Sullivan nodded slowly. "I think it's time we had an honest conversation with them. Not as diplomats trying to impress each other, but as people trying to understand each other." The next day, Sullivan requested a meeting with the full council. Not a formal diplomatic session, but a simple conversation. In the station's central garden, the setting was peaceful, surrounded by plants from all 6 council worlds growing together in harmony. Council leader Zethkar arrived with representatives from each species. They looked nervous, uncertain, but willing to listen. Council leader Sullivan began, "We know you're afraid of us. We understand why. We come from a world that must seem incredibly dangerous to you. But I want you to understand something about humanity." She gestured to her team standing behind her. "Every person here has sworn an oath to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Captain Morrison was a soldier before he became an explorer. His job was to stand between innocent people and those who would harm them. Commander Torres has dedicated her life to learning how to defend others. Our scientists study the universe not to conquer it, but to understand it and share that knowledge. "But you are warriors," Zethkar said quietly. "Yes, we are. But do you know what that really means? It means we know the cost of violence. We know what war does to people, to families, to entire civilizations. That's why we choose peace whenever possible." Captain Morrison stepped forward. "Council leader, you've built something beautiful here. A civilization without war, without fear, without the need for weapons or armies. It's everything humanity has dreamed of achieving. Then why do you frighten us so much?" asked Veltar. "Because you're afraid we'll destroy what you've built," Morrison replied. "But that's not why we're here. We're here because we want to be part of it. For the first time in human history, we've found people who share our dream of peace among the stars. What are you asking of us?" Zethkar asked. Sullivan took a deep breath. "Let us be your guardians. Let us stand watch while you continue to build this paradise. You don't need to become warriors yourselves. You don't need to learn about violence or develop weapons. Let us carry that burden for you. And in return, let us belong. Let us be part of something greater than ourselves. Let us prove that even Deathworlders can choose peace." The silence that followed was long and thoughtful. Finally, Zethkar spoke. "The council will consider your proposal. But know this. If we accept, you will be responsible not just for our protection, but for preserving everything we have built. Can you do that without becoming the very thing we fear?" "We can," Sullivan said firmly, "because that's what we've been doing our entire history. We've been learning to be strong enough to protect others, and wise enough to know when not to use that strength." The vote took place the next day. It was not unanimous, but it was decisive. Humanity would be welcomed into the Galactic Council, not as junior members, but as protectors and guardians of galactic peace, as the Terran Dawn prepared to return to Earth with the news. Long-range sensors detected something that made every human military officer on the station alert with concern. Ships were moving in the deep space between galaxies, old ships, dark ships, heading toward Council space. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had lived in peace because they had been hidden. But their broadcasts welcoming humanity had been detected by others in the void, something ancient. And hungry was coming. And for the first time in the history of the Galactic Council, they were ready. The Deathworlders had come home, and they had brought their strength with them.